I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. I would like to welcome Puppy-sensei. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I am also doing great. Just wonderful.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. If you could please introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So I am Puppy-sensei. I am your puppy girl Japanese teacher VTuber of Irium US. I teach you Japanese so that you can level up your abilities and learn a little bit of Japanese. I try to make it accessible and easily digestible every single day.
Oh, that's good, because for those of us who weren't smart enough to try to learn a second language when we were younger, kick myself repeatedly over that. I look at another language, and especially one like Japanese, and I'm like, okay, no chance. I might learn one or two words which I've kind of picked up here and there, but other than that, no, it didn't. I'm trying to swallow the whole elephant when I should maybe take little bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important part of learning. As an educator, I really feel like we have a tendency to want to learn something so badly that we say, I'm going to learn it all in a day. I'm going to learn it all in a week. I'm going to learn it all in a year. And it's almost like working out, right? You wouldn't go into the idea of working out and say, next week, I'm going to completely change what my body looks like. I think language is the same way. You have to go into it and say, this is a lifestyle change.
Yeah, I couldn't even, I really wanted it when I was younger to get a ham radio license. Amateur radio license, and you have to learn Morse code for that. At least you did back then. I couldn't. I couldn't get my fingers to work correctly for it. I could get it in my head, but I couldn't do it to actually do it. A second language, to me, unfortunately, my second language is Sesame Street Spanish. I can almost count to 20, and I can tell you where the doors are. That's about it.
Well, I can't even do that in Spanish. So I don't speak any of it, unfortunately.
I'm doing better than the teacher. At least in that, as far as that's concerned. But so, did you always want to be a instructor?
I think so. I think being a teacher is what I wanted for most of my life. So, I grew up in a strange household because in my household, regularly I was hearing Polish and German and Russian all being spoken.
Wow.
Very frequently. Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't grow up speaking any of those languages. I didn't learn any of those languages. And so I would very frequently, I would hear words that I didn't know all the time. I would hear conversations that I didn't know all the time.
Yeah.
And it made me so curious about language. It made me so interested in the way that we communicate and the way that people who speak different languages move through the world and how they kind of acclimate their culture in different ways. And so I was always really interested in learning about how our minds work and how language works and things like that.
It is wild to look at different languages that are basically have the same basic roots, but since they cropped up in different parts of the world, they're used in different ways.
Yes.
Like, well, as I mentioned, Spanish. I mean, Spanish was literally all over the world at one point, from Spain to what became South America to the Philippines was Spanish. And it was now it's not quite so much, but if you go down to South America and speak to somebody in, say, Chile, and then talk to somebody in Puerto Rico, and then talk to somebody in Spain, you're going to get three completely different languages.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and English is the same way too, except you go city to city sometimes with that, especially in England for whatever reason. So did you get into the history of it, or did you get into the nuts and bolts of it?
So, the interesting thing is that I was actually speaking Chinese before I was speaking Japanese.
Whoa.
We traveled a lot when I was younger. there are a lot of reasons why we traveled a whole lot, and I won't really get into all of them.
Mm,
I'll just say that both of my parents were medical professionals,
mm,
and because of their job, we had to move around
yes,
quite a bit.
yes.
And so I spent some time in China, and I spent some time learning Chinese. And I don't know if it's really common knowledge. I don't think every listener um, would know about this, but the Chinese and Japanese languages really kind of use a base same, not really a syllabary, but the logographic characters
Hmm.
are from the same root,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. For those of us that are really uneducated about how these things work, that we can't tell the difference between some that's written
Hmm.
down.
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, to our
Hmm.
dismay, but
Yeah.
and the and when you talk about Chinese, what dialect?
I was living in Shanghai,
Uh,
so I actually went to school in Shanghai,
mm,
couple different times, and you would call it Shanghainese,
mm,
right?
yeah,
But it's really Mandarin,
mm,
just that very specific dialect.
mm,
Now, my Chinese today, I haven't used it. I've kind of lost it
mm.
because once I left China, really started getting into anime, and some people uh, like clued me into the existence of anime. I was watching things like Durarara,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I can recognize a lot of the things that are being said here from Chinese. I, would see it on the screen and say, I know that character, so I know what that says."
Was because you learned Chinese? Was it easier to learn Japanese off of that?
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely. I definitely had that advantage going into learning more Japanese, that I was able to see kanji and say, I know what that means. I may not know how to say it,
mm,
but I know what that means. And I think that maybe because of my background growing up and not being able to understand what my family members were saying, it made me voraciously curious that I would see something and say, if I know what that means, but I don't know how to say it, I have to know how to say it.
mm. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to bug you until you
Hmm.
realize I can see that and I know exactly what it means.
Yeah.
It has it become second nature for you? I mean, is it something you don't have to force yourself to do?
Well, I am professionally a translator now,
Yeah.
and it's a pretty wild story how I became a translator, and the story of how I became a translator is also the story of how I became a VTuber. Um, but I work with Japanese so often
Hmm.
in my daily life that I think now I have a very, very particular, very honed set of Japanese knowledge
Mm.
that if you put technical specs in front of me, I'm going to be able to pour through it without any trouble because that's what I do every
Oh,
single day.
oh, neat.
Um, mhm.
Yeah.
Um, but that doesn't necessarily translate to conversational Japanese perfectly. So there are still days when I go, I don't know what that person said, and then I have to go and check it out. So I would not say that Japanese has reached the level where I feel like it is a native language to me. I wouldn't call it my L2, or language that is just as filled in my head as English is,
Mm.
but I think it's probably pretty close.
Yeah. So you could probably get along now in English, Japanese, and probably Chinese if you had a spear pointed at you or something.
If push came to shove, I could definitely navigate my way through Shanghai in a taxi. I could tell the taxi driver where I wanted to go
Yeah.
easily enough.
Yeah. That's good. You're way
Mhm.
ahead of everybody else as far as that's concerned. And I imagine how did you? Okay. So you said becoming a translator and becoming a VTuber are aligned together. So you got to tell us now how that happened.
Sure, yeah. It's a pretty wild story. So, um, I was working on my master's degree, and as I was working on my master's, I got a phone call one day, and years before this, not that many years, but some years before this, I had had a Japanese teacher.
Hmm.
And the person who called me said, "Hey, we know that you're studying at this university right now. But your teacher, the teacher who taught you Japanese when you were kind of working on newer Japanese skills, is sick.
Mm.
And would you consider taking over her class and teaching her class?
Bah.
Um, and I thought, well, that's a wild thing to be asked, but I mean, I'm a grad student and I'm relatively intelligent and I have a background in Japanese. So I said, sure, no problem.
Wow.
And so I thought that my trajectory was definitely going to be academic. From that point forward, I was like, I'm gonna get my PhD and I'm going to become a professor, and that's what I'm gonna do with my life.
Yeah. But
And while I was on that path, and I finished my master's, I actually finished a second master's. I was working on my PhD. I was teaching regularly. I was teaching both kind of like intro freshman level, uh, uh, like rhetoric classes, but also teaching Japanese at the same time.
mm-hmm.
I suddenly got another strange phone call from a person that I didn't know. And this person said, hey, we are in your area. We're a local company. We're close to the university where you teach, and we desperately need somebody to interpret Japanese. And I said, well, that's great. I can give you maybe some recommendations. I can tell you maybe some of my good students that might be able to help you out. And they said, no, we want you. Whatever you're making right now, just double it and we'll pay it. And so you can't turn that down,
No,
right?
no, you can't. You can't. Uh, I don't care who you are.
Um,
You ain't gonna turn that down, especially if you can do the
mhm,
job.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
So that's what I did.
so basically, it all come to you. You were in the right spot.
Yep.
You
Yep.
and from your skills, you had more people knowing what you could do than you knew.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
People were talking about you, but in a good way,
um,
obviously.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then I'll kind of finish out the story with the other half, which is how I became a VTuber,
Yeah.
which is also a very super interesting story.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't really want to give up teaching. At that point, I loved teaching. I didn't really love the bureaucracy of higher education. There's a lot of stuff that
Right.
goes into it. I like to say teaching college freshmen and teaching second graders really is the same job. That's There's not a whole lot of difference there. Um,
Getting less
but
every
I
day.
loved teaching, and I've always loved teaching, and I've always loved education.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to continue teaching despite the fact that I was now translating full time. I had this very, very, kind of intense job. And I like translating, I like interpreting. So I thought it would be a really great idea to put myself out there and to offer local in my area um, tutoring for
Mm.
people. I
Okay.
could offer very competitive rates and help people out.
Yeah.
So a lot of people contacted me.
I bet.
A lot of people said they were very interested. And it's a very strange thing that happened. I don't really understand why, but many, many, many people contacted me, and I would set time aside, maybe go to a public library and say, I'm going to meet you in a public place so that we're all on equal footing, and I'll teach you Japanese. And they wouldn't show up.
That's weird.
Yeah, it happened over and over and over. And they would ghost me. They would just lose my number, and I would try to contact them and say, hey, I came to teach your class and you weren't there. And I would never hear from them again. It happened several dozen times. And that's a lot of time out of your day to waste when people are reaching out to you and saying, I want to learn.
Yeah. That's a lot of time out of your life. That's Twilight Zone
Absolutely.
material there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and I think from a certain perspective, I think you have to cut people some slack and say, I get it. Learning a language is a lot of work. It's a huge commitment. It's a monetary commitment because they're agreeing to pay me.
Right.
And I wish that people had thought about that before they would go through the entire process of scheduling me.
Mm.
But as it was, that was where we were.
Mm.
And so in June of last year, this happened again. and I had somebody reach out, and already I was very leery about it. I was thinking, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Um, and they said, I'm getting ready to go to Japan and I really want to learn. And they said the keyword that always, 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 every time made red flags come up, which was, I'd like to learn as quickly as possible.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
It's
so I thought, well, I'm gonna give it a try. I'll try it out. We'll see what happens. Made time out of my day, went to go and meet with them, and they didn't show up, of course, again.
it's
And
like
at that point, I thought, I can't, I can't do this anymore.
it's like
I
you,
go ahead.
at that point you're like Elmer Fudd hunting rabbits.
Yes, exactly. So I quit. I
Mm,
said, I'm not going to teach anymore. I'm not going to tutor anymore. And that pretty much, pretty much that same day, I made my first video and put it out on YouTube.
mm,
And I said, from now on, when people contact me and say, I want to learn Japanese, I'm going to say, go to my YouTube channel
mm.
because otherwise you're not going to show up for class.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, here's my class, and
Hmm.
so you took that from there, and now you're doing live things. Um,
Yeah.
now tell me, how did you make that transition and why?
So I make every day, right? I will put out one word of the day
Hmm.
every single day. We've been through a number of different iterations of how I decide to do that, how I decide to put this content out. But I really like doing it randomly. And so we've kind of circled back to just deciding randomly what the word of the day is going to be.
Hmm.
I do recorded content on Wednesdays and on every other Saturday-ish, right? Where I'll also put out a longer lesson where I really guide people through the process of learning Japanese. Um, I like teaching live content,
Hmm.
but I really prefer doing live content when it's a smaller class size.
Hmm.
With a larger class size, it's a lot harder
Hmm.
because you don't know where everybody's level is. And it becomes very difficult to say, well, I'm going to teach this very basic concept today.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of the people in my chat can't follow along.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had that in college, I bet. I mean, you were in classes. I imagine that there were auditoriums full of people, uh, and I know even in my little junior college we had that.
Yeah.
And there's just like so many. There's no way you can give that individual experience that way.
Exactly. And that's what I crave. I crave as a teacher being able to teach one-on-one. So I do have a lot of students that I'm working with one-on-one now that I do kind of live lessons with them, and I love that.
Hmm.
It's so much fun. But my larger live lessons are also okay. I usually do those on a vertical streaming platform.
Hmm.
So that's also very fun where I don't necessarily have to worry about any of the visuals.
Yeah.
It's just me and my class, and
Yeah.
we're just kind of working together.
Yeah. So, how did you get involved with the Irium folks?
Yeah, that's also a really interesting story because, as I said, last June is when I really started creating a lot of content, and I did not and still do not know anything about this industry. um, I don't know anything about VTubing and particularly social media. It's an enigma to me completely. And so very, very early in my, career as a content creator, somebody reached out to me. They had seen my video and they said, "Hey, would you like to do a collab?" And at the time, I didn't even know what a collab was. I had to ask somebody in my life and say, "What are they talking about?" Um, so we ended up playing a game together. There were several of us playing this game at the same time, and I had a lot of fun. And afterward, I really kind of linked up with one of the people from that group,
Mm.
which was Celeste Orion,
Mm.
um, who I absolutely adore. And Celeste has been my guide, opening doors for me this entire journey. And once Celeste joined Irium, Celeste kind of like, I don't know, baby birded me into applying myself. I didn't really believe in myself, but I applied and got in, and ever since, Irium has really been my community.
Yeah, it does seem like Irium and the way they're doing things here is is pretty much a perfect spot for you to do this.
Yeah.
The focus is on you and what you're teaching. It isn't a game, or it isn't something going on in the background. It's you and the students and the people who are tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now with that, you know from teaching now and other things, there's no safety net. So you already have that down pat, so you don't have to worry about that. But
Yeah.
there's also still some anonymity involved in it,
Hmm.
over the lines. Um,
Yeah.
have you found that tough to adjust to when you're trying to teach to somebody you can't see?
I think that it's always going to be an imperfect system.
Mm.
I have been an advocate for a very long time, and this actually works very, very much against me, and I recognize that it works against me. But I have long preached that anime is not the ideal way to learn the Japanese language. Not that there's anything wrong with it,
Yeah.
but I think that what we do with our bodies, our body language,
Hmm.
what we do with our mouths, what we do with our facial muscles as we speak is actually an incredibly important part of the language learning process.
Oh yeah.
And I have to recognize as a teacher that I don't teach that
Mm.
when I'm teaching on Irium, when I'm teaching on YouTube. You're not getting facial movements.
Mm.
You're not getting gestures. You're not getting true body language. And
Oh.
as a result, you're never getting the whole of the Japanese language.
Mm.
And this is part of the reason why I advocate to my students all the time. I'm not the ideal teacher to teach you the entirety of the Japanese language,
Right.
but I'm a great teacher to teach you if all you want is little bite-sized reminders.
Mm. Yeah. It's you don't get the nuances of the. I mean, you can use inflections, but you don't you can't read a person's face and kind of tell whether or not they're kidding or something
Yeah.
along those lines, putting on a poker face or anything like that.
Mm.
That's I never thought of something like that with it, but it does make a lot of sense, especially
Yeah.
I would think with a language like Japanese, where to me when I'm listening to people speak, I hear them say what sounds like the same thing, but it's completely different, and it's because there's inflection on one syllable rather than another. That I don't know if I could ever get used to that, but I imagine
Mm.
that helps if you can see a person face to face.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Um, I have this story that I always like to go back to that I was working in my current position where I am now in what I call my big girl job. And I was speaking Japanese to another coworker that I'm fairly close with, that I know pretty well.
mm,
But there was another Japanese employee who was behind the two of us, and he was doing some filing and wasn't looking at the two of us.
mhm,
Didn't know me. I had never met him before, but I'm talking to my friend and we're having a nice conversation in Japanese.
yeah.
And he turned around, the other guy, the other gentleman who's doing this filing, turned around and saw me speaking with this Japanese person, and he was shocked, like the look on his face, and he went, "Huh!" He thought that two Japanese people had been talking with one
Ah,
another.
well, that's a compliment right there.
It certainly is. It
Yeah,
certainly is.
yeah.
But it's just another aspect of language that there's so much that goes into talking with somebody that we don't think about that's visual.
Hmm.
Um, if I were traveling in Japan, oftentimes when I'm in Japan, I will speak really good Japanese to an employee or someone that's like a waiter at a restaurant or something like that,
Right.
and they won't understand me.
Mm.
They won't understand me at all. They'll
Uh,
say, "I don't.
yeah, because
You're
you're too good, too perfect.
I don't know. I don't know if it's that or I think it's maybe honestly like a very subtle form of racism.
Well, it might. I don't. I'm
Hmm.
never been over there. My father
Yeah.
went over there, but I'd never went over there.
Yeah.
The I guess I can imagine something like that, but my guess is, and it's an uneducated one by any stretch of the imagination, um, is that if I was going to a country and I knew basic Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and but I didn't know the local patois,
Mm-hmm.
and I spoke very basic, and that the people who were raised in that local thing like, oh, what? That's
Mm-hmm.
like French and a Cajun, you know. There's totally
Mm-hmm.
different ways of doing it. That might have had something to do with it, but I'm
Yeah.
shooting blindly here with it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it might be, and that's if you can get good enough to at that language to if they're not seeing one on one, they think that you are a native speaker of it. I mean, that's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
compliment right there. That tells you that you're in like Flynn.
Yeah.
I mean, really, especially and the fun part is when they find out and then you can do that reaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whoa!
Yeah. Very shocking to me. Um, but I do think that there's a lot of visual that goes along with language learning,
Mm,
and that's, as I said before, I think that's why I don't consider myself to be the perfect
mm,
Japanese teacher, and I never want to be.
yeah.
I just want to help people. I want to help people in their journey, and there's nothing, as sad as it is, I think there's nothing in my heart that I love more than when I tell one of my students, I think you're ready. I don't think we need to have lessons anymore. Like, you can go and run on your own and fly.
Yes.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can have a straight up Japanese conversation with somebody else and it's not your first language between either one of them and yourself or the other person and it's smooth and you know exactly what the other one is saying. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff. It's like speaking in secret code, unless somebody else there also knows Japanese. When that would be my luck.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah. So I understand with this, and this is why the learning languages with inflections, learning certain phrases is very important when you're on say a radio or a audio only thing. That now VTubing is
Hmm.
a little different because you do
Yeah.
have a model. Some models are more uh, uh, expressive than others. I think I'll use that word, expressive
Sure.
than others.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot that you have to get over with your voice. Um,
Hmm.
that's not something that a lot of people learn early on.
Yeah.
Even native English speakers don't learn that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And is that something when you were doing your one-on-ones and doing your classroom that you try to teach folks?
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's something that's very important, and I do my best to convey it in the kind of the way that will come across through the use of a model.
Mm,
Um, I think VTubing is a great medium for teaching vocabulary and grammar. And
mm,
those are two things that I love,
mm,
right? I love vocabulary and I love grammar. I have a master's degree in linguistics.
cool.
And so these are things that I think come very naturally to me.
Mm,
The benefit of teaching through a VTube model really is my ability to, I think, give small blocks of information to people,
mm,
and help them develop the confidence to be able to go out there and have those real conversations with people that do eventually set you up to become a native speaker.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
It's you don't get to do the physical nuances, but everything else you can do.
Mhm.
Um, it
Yeah.
to me the I've looked at it since I started doing these interviews. Is that VTubing is a lot of extension of the old radio programs, old DJs and radio programs where people would come to hear a song on a radio station. They could hear that song on all sorts of different stations. They came back to the station for the personality of the person playing the song. And I think that's a lot what VTubing is too at this point, where people come back to the personality. I mean, everybody could be playing Minecraft, get 1,000 people doing it, but they come back to the person that they enjoy watching do Minecraft. It's a very personality driven, and that requires a really different level of communication, I think.
Yeah.
And
I'm thinking back to when I started on Irium, and one of the conversations that I had at that time, um, I I conveyed that I felt that I was very even in my energy. I
mm-hmm,
felt like my energy is a good energy for a teacher,
mm-hmm,
in my humble opinion,
mm-hmm,
because I think that I'm very calm and I'm
absolutely.
very direct.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. Um, I was very surprised because I had a number of viewers say, "We disagree. We think you're very high energy." And I
okay.
was shocked to learn that.
And also like, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were they? Is it just in comparison to other V casters or what?
I wonder if it's not in comparison to what they thought they were going to get from me.
Mm,
Um, I think I portray myself very much as a teacher.
mm-hmm,
That's where my heart is. And maybe, there's just something that comes out of me when I'm live, that oftentimes, if I am streaming a game or if I am on Irium, just kind of yapping with people and not necessarily teaching and giving, very careful content, I think the energy that I get from my viewers maybe does bring out a more playful side in me.
yeah,
And maybe that's the puppy in Puppy-sensei.
that probably is. And the fact that you enjoy it so much, and
Hmm.
you obviously enjoy it. I mean, you can hear it in your voices as we've been talking how much you enjoy it. Um,
Hmm.
is infectious, and
Hmm.
that will 99 times out of 100 that's going to translate into the over to the people who are listening if they're paying any attention at all.
Yeah.
And that's the type of you can be as calm as a a cold cucumber if you want to be, but
Hmm.
if you're doing this with a a not just a positive attitude, but a um, a big heart behind it, or it's just you can tell it's somebody's passion. That will
Yeah.
always come through, in my opinion, and that makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really and you've got the one of the calmest voices I've ever heard on this. it's
Well,
it's
thank you.
it's very very calm, and also it's not mumbly. That
Mm,
makes a big
mm,
difference too.
yeah.
It just I can imagine someone tuning into whether it's you're doing streaming a game or whether it's you doing a lesson or something along those lines, and they immediately become comfortable with it.
Mm.
Um, is that something you taught yourself, or is that something that just came naturally?
I think that comes naturally to me. I can remember at one point, this is actually a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this may have even been before I started grad school. I think I may have been an undergrad that I had a professor ask me if I had ever thought about doing guided meditations because I
Ooh,
had such a calm demeanor.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that would be
I,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think that I tend to be relatively even keel.
Mm,
And I also, as you said, that was a very wonderful compliment that you paid me, that I do try very, very, very hard to be positive.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's unfortunate that you know, it's it's unprecedented times
Right.
that we live in,
Mm.
and there is an ancient Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times, and we
Yes.
certainly live in interesting times. And unfortunately, that gets to me quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It.
Not always easy to stay positive.
Yeah. You hear. I've heard somebody tell somebody as they were leaving from a conversation at a store. I hope you have the day you deserve.
Yeah.
Like, oh, ouch.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't want the day I deserve. I want better than the day I deserve, for crying out loud. That's it. The old damning with very very faint praise as far as that goes. Um, and language is so when you can use language in a way that not only brings the point across, but also um, embeds it in somebody. You can
Mhm.
hammer it in without using a hammer.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've got a wordsmith and somebody who is who knows what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I it's another thing I don't I kick myself for not knowing different languages because there are so many words to describe situations that aren't English.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe there is a word in Japanese or Spanish or something, and I don't know that word, and that drives me crazy. I
Mhm.
want to have the right word,
Yeah.
and maybe I can't use it in
Um,
Scrabble, but I still want the right word.
yeah, yeah. There's a word that I particularly love, which is komorebi. Komorebi in Japanese is the word for light filtering through the trees.
Mm,
And we have no such word in English.
no, it's
But
been like purdy.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
purdy.
But what you had brought up about this kind of sort of Midwestern, how would you even say it? Very cutting kind of
Mm,
false praise.
mm-hmm.
That's also a very Japanese thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Japanese is so fascinating to me because it's not a language that was ever built for insulting people
Right.
at all.
Right.
Um, and when you think about the history of Japan and the history of the Japanese military, it's pretty wild that Japanese is not a language that is interested in insulting people. The most insulting thing that you can say to most Japanese people is you. Just the word you. It is quite culturally insulting.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't do that if you're over in Japan.
Mm-mm.
Don't learn that word and just say it
Yeah,
and not follow up with something.
indeed.
You can get swarmed at that point, and they don't know who you're talking to.
Mhm.
It's and the cultural differences is in language also makes a big difference too, and obviously you would bring something like that because of your love for teaching this.
Yeah.
It would come through in how you teach it. But if you were to pick up a you know a CD, learn while you sleep type of thing. First of all,
Mhm.
it ain't going to work. Second of all, um, you wouldn't learn that sort of thing. You'd learn very, very, very basic, if anything, and there's no meat on those bones. And
Right.
it is very hard to communicate as far as that goes. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So when you're on with a game, streaming a game,
Mhm. Yeah.
what type of games are you playing?
Oh my gosh. So again, I have had to evolve quite a bit in the I've only been doing this over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And in a year I've tried a bunch of different things, but I think that I finally landed on something that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
Um because I work a full-time job, and I'm working 50 hours a week as a translator,
Right.
I don't have as much time to stream as a lot of my compatriots.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really like is I have learned to love playthroughs.
Ah.
I kind of started out by saying, I'm going to play whatever.
Right.
And I'll pick it up and I'll play it for a few sessions and I'll go, well, that was a whole lot of fun. Let's move on to something else. Um, I don't feel like I didn't grow up playing a lot of video games. I didn't play a lot when I was little.
Right.
Um, I may have played, some here and there, but I was never what I would consider a gamer at
Right.
all.
Right.
And it wasn't until I started streaming that I found the dopamine rush that is playing a game to completion.
Ah, yeah, yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That was something that we had in the very early. My first computer was a Commodore 64, so I'm a very old guy. But those games always had endings,
Mm-hmm.
and if all your discs worked, you could find that ending eventually. I once spent
Yeah.
months with a big pad of graph paper because I could not find the ending to a game, and we did not have an internet to spoil it. So I
Mm.
graphed every inch of this game and finally found how to beat it. I was so overpowered by that point that the ending battle was nothing. I just had to hit one button, and I was like level 680 or something like that. Just gonna die. But I had that rush of finally beating something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then came the Nintendo.
Mm.
And yes, and you never finished a game because you can only save on one game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I finished Zelda, but you can save on Zelda. You
Mm-hmm.
you had to rely on codes that I never wrote down for other games. So we
Okay.
kind of and a lot of us too, my age, grew up on arcade video games.
Mm-hmm.
Very tough to finish those if you don't have a lot of quarters.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and you definitely
Um,
can't save on those.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
So, yeah, so to more directly, I think, answer your question, literally just this week, I finished a full playthrough of Fallout New Vegas.
oh yes, yes, that was the
Yeah.
last game I finished. Is Fallout New
Mm.
Vegas.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
I really enjoyed that game. Now, I didn't enjoy. I didn't go through the casino in the desert thing.
Mm.
That was too much. I just died all the time on that. Like, okay, I'm already top level. Don't need that stuff. Everything else was
Hmm.
great though.
Yeah.
So what appealed to you to that one?
Well, I hadn't played it when it came out. I had never really played a full playthrough of it.
Hmm.
There is ancient wisdom that is that all trans girls love Fallout New Vegas for some reason. I don't know why.
There's
It's a thing.
something out there that for some reason.
And so I knew I kind of needed to play it. I love the Fallout series, despite the fact that I never played this one.
Hmm.
I really like the idea of an immersive game where you can create your character, truly become who you want to be in that world, mess with your stats, and
Hmm.
say, I want to play a character that's quite smart, or maybe one that's not smart at all, or
Yeah.
quite charismatic. I am a Pathfinder player in my spare time. I play a lot of tabletop role playing games.
Oh yeah.
And so to see that translated over into a video game in a really cool way, it was kind of intoxicating for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I played 1 and 2 early on, and
okay.
there was such a big gap between 2 and 3, of course.
Mm,
And of course the everything changed, and I didn't get into 3 because I got to the point where I didn't have like the twitch factor that you need to do these live.
mm,
My hands don't work like they used to, unfortunately. But with the
mhm,
VAT system, it does make a difference. And finally, I
yeah.
got 3, 4 in New Vegas. 4 doesn't work on my computer, so I can't play it. But
Oh,
I played the other 2 over and over and over and over again because it's just so deep, and you can go so many different places with it.
do you recommend 3?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't played it, so I think it's going on the list of one I'm going to start possibly tomorrow. I'm going to start Alien Isolation.
Ooh, okay. And
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
now I'm hiding under the table. You can play that one. You can play that one. I'll just stay over here. I have nightmares already. I don't need any more.
That's valid. That's valid.
I don't need to add them to the list. Got plenty. But yeah, I would. 3 is a slightly different bird than Fallout New Vegas, but you got um, a lot of the same mechanics involved in it, and the story is good.
Okay,
So I
I'll check it out.
recommend it, and I will refuse to spoil it for you. Um,
Thank you.
yes, you'll enjoy it. Heck, once you get into it, you're not going to put it down anyway. I know I didn't when it happened.
That is a problem with me, I think. Once I get into a good stream, I do not want to stop. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I know that I have to wake up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning,
yeah,
and it is currently midnight.
yes, yes, and yeah, I can tell you this: when you get to a certain age, that's a very bad hobby to have.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I have to get up and when I'm 25, yes, 35. Yeah, I can probably do it. 45, you're dumb, but yeah, you can do it. 55, 55 is, what are you thinking? You're gonna have to call off for work. You're not going into work tomorrow.
Mm,
It's just not happening. And
yeah.
my wife looks at me like, you did it again, didn't you? Yes, I did. Please leave me alone. Didn't mess up any of your stuff, okay? Hey, it's an absolute pleasure talking with you, and we're gonna have all the links
Thank
because
you.
you've got a lot of places that you're up on.
Yeah.
And so it's everywhere. Uh, hey, you want to learn some Japanese, and you want to hear from a really very interesting person, an outstanding one. You need to check out and see what Puppy-sensei's got going on, because
Mm,
obviously, if you've listened to this interview at all, you've heard someone who obviously loves what they're doing, and translates that into, and you know how to communicate that, which is very big. Hats off to you for that. And
thank you so much.
hopefully we'll have you on again sometime in the future if I ever get my part twos going again. we'll we'll
Yeah,
have
that would be great.
we'll have you back on. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing, and maybe I'll come out and learn a word or two uh,
Well, thank you.
of Japanese. I'll try to catch up and see if I can almost count to 20 in Japanese too.
Okay, no problem. Thank
Thank
you so much.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.